Our story begins in 1926. It was a time of great change in America. Cars were becoming common, and radios were bringing new sounds into homes. It was the Roaring Twenties, and people felt hopeful. The United States Mint was busy making coins for the growing country. They made pennies, nickels, and dimes. These coins were part of everyday life. Folks used them to buy newspapers and candy. But one day, something very unusual happened at the San Francisco Mint. A special dime was created, one that would become a legend. It looked almost like all the other dimes, but it was different in a very small, very important way. This was the era of the Mercury dime. It was officially called the Winged Liberty Head dime, but most people called it the Mercury dime. They thought the picture on the coin was the Roman god Mercury, but it was actually Lady Liberty wearing a winged cap. This cap was meant to symbolize freedom of thought. On the back of the coin, there was a fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe, symbolizing strength and authority. An olive branch was wrapped around it, a sign of peace. This beautiful design by Adolph A. Weinman was on millions of dimes. It was a common sight in the pockets and purses of Americans everywhere, but one particular dime struck on a quiet Tuesday morning was destined for a different path. A mint worker named Silas Croft was overseeing the coining press. He was a man who loved his job and paid close attention to details. He noticed a tiny flaw in one of the dies. A die is the stamp used to press the design onto a blank coin. A microscopic crack had formed near Lady Liberty's mouth. When the press came down, it left a very faint, extra line on the coin. It looked as if Lady Liberty was whispering a secret. Silas, being a romantic at heart, decided not to report it immediately. He let the press run for just a few more strikes. Out of the millions of dimes made that year, only 3 were ever created with this unique mark. Silas saw them glinting in the bin, and knew they were special. He quickly and quietly took them before they could be mixed with the others, replacing them with 3 normal dimes from his own pocket. The other 2, whispering Liberty dimes as he called them, were later lost to history. One was accidentally spent on a newspaper and never seen again. The other he gave to his brother, who lost it in a boating accident. Only one remained. This single special dime, born from a tiny crack in a machine, was now ready to start its incredible journey into American folklore. Just a few years after the special dime was made, America changed. The Roaring Twenties ended with a crash. The stock market fell in 1929, starting the Great Depression. It was a very hard time for the country. Many people lost their jobs, their homes, and their savings. Hope was a difficult thing to find. The country that was once so full of energy and optimism was now full of worry and fear. People did whatever they could to survive. They stood in long lines for bread, and they moved across the country looking for work. Every penny, and certainly every dime, counted for a great deal. Silas Croft, the mint worker who had saved the special dime, also fell on hard times. He lost his job at the mint. He had a family to feed. He watched his neighbors struggle and felt a deep sense of despair. He still had the one remaining Liberty's Whisper dime. He kept it wrapped in a small piece of velvet cloth and stored it in a little tin box. He knew it was unique. He thought that one day, it might be valuable. It was his secret hope, a small, shiny reminder of better days. It was a promise that even in the darkest of times, something special could exist. As the years went on, things did not get better for Silas. He sold most of his valuable possessions just to buy food. But he never sold the dime. It was more than just a coin to him. It was a symbol. He decided he couldn't keep it for himself. He wanted the dime to be a source of hope for someone else. He wanted it to be a miracle for a stranger. So, he came up with a plan. He decided to hide the dime, hoping it would be found one day by someone who truly needed it. He imagined a family finding it, and their lives being changed for the better. Silas chose a place to hide his treasure. He was working a temporary job helping to build small, simple houses for families who had lost their homes. One of these houses was in a quiet neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. While working on the living room floor, he saw his chance. Late one afternoon, when no one else was around, he took out the little tin box. He looked at the dime one last time and whispered a small prayer for the future owner. Then, he carefully placed the dime under a specific floorboard, right next to the fireplace. He nailed the board down tightly, hiding the secret for decades to come. The little house in Cleveland, Ohio, stood for many years. It saw many families come and go. It was a simple, sturdy house filled with the sounds of life. Children laughed in its rooms, and families shared meals at its table. The world outside changed dramatically. World War II came and went. The 1950s brought rock and roll and new prosperity. The 1960s brought social change. Through it all, the house remained, and hidden beneath its living room floor, the small silver dime waited silently. It was a secret kept by the wood and nails, a forgotten piece of hope from a difficult time. The families who lived there never knew about the treasure. They swept the floors, polished the wood, and placed rugs over the very spot where the dime was hidden. Children played with toy cars and dolls on those same floorboards. Life moved on, year after year, decade after decade. The story of Silas Croft and his special dime was lost to time. He had passed away without telling anyone his secret. The dime was just a forgotten object, waiting for its moment. It was a time capsule of one man's kindness and hope, sealed away from the world. By the early 2000s, the house was old. It showed its age. The paint was peeling, the roof needed repairs, and the wooden floors creaked and groaned with every step. It was the kind of house that people might overlook. It was not fancy or modern. It was a house with a long history, but its greatest story was still untold. In 2025, a new family moved in. They were the Millers, a young family with 2 small children. They didn't have much money, but they had a lot of love. They bought the old house because it was what they could afford. The Millers hoped to fix up the house themselves. The father, Tom Miller, was a handyman who planned to spend his weekends repairing the old place. His wife, Sarah, wanted to plant a garden in the backyard. Their son, 10-year-old Leo, was an adventurous and curious boy. He loved exploring new places, and the old house, with its strange noises and hidden corners, was a perfect playground for him. He was about to become a very important part of this long and winding story. The stage was set for a discovery that would change everything for the Miller family. Leo Miller loved his new house. It was much bigger than their old apartment. He had his own room, and there was a big attic to explore. But his favorite place was the living room. It had a big old fireplace made of brick. The wooden floor around the fireplace was very old. Some of the boards were warped and uneven. Leo's parents told him to be careful around them. They planned to fix the floor as soon as they had the time and money. For Leo, the uneven floor was not a problem. It was a source of mystery and adventure. He liked to imagine what could be hidden underneath. One rainy Saturday afternoon, on January 25, 2026, Leo was playing in the living room. His parents were busy in the kitchen. He was rolling his favorite toy car across the floor, a small red race car. As it rolled near the fireplace, it hit one of the loose floorboards. The car bounced and fell into the small crack between 2 boards. Leo could not reach it with his fingers. He tried to use a stick to get it out, but the car was stuck. He was frustrated. He did not want to lose his favorite toy. He was a determined boy and decided he had to get it back. Leo lay on his stomach and peered into the dark crack. He could just see the red paint of his toy car. He noticed that the floorboard next to the crack was very loose. He could wiggle it with his fingers. He pushed and pulled on the board. It made a loud creaking sound. He knew he probably shouldn't be doing it, but his curiosity was too strong. With one final, strong pull, the end of the board lifted up. It came free from the old nails that had held it in place for nearly a century. Leo had just opened a door to the past. Underneath the floorboard, it was dark and dusty. It was filled with cobwebs and the dirt of many, many years. Leo's toy car was sitting there, right on top of the dirt. He reached in and grabbed it. He was happy to have his car back, but as he pulled his hand out, he saw something else. It was small and round. It was covered in dust, but it glinted in the light from the living room lamp. It was a small tin box. It was old and a little rusty. He had no idea what it was, but he knew it was something special. He had found a hidden treasure. Leo sat on the floor holding the small tin box. It was surprisingly light. He wiped the dust off with the sleeve of his shirt. He could see that it was a simple metal box, the kind people used to use for keeping small things. He tried to open it, but the lid was stuck tight. He shook it. He heard a tiny rattling sound inside. Something was in there. His heart started to beat faster. He ran into the kitchen to show his parents. "Mom, Dad, look what I found!" he shouted. He held up the rusty box for them to see. He was very excited. Tom and Sarah Miller looked at the box with surprise. They listened as Leo explained how he found it under the loose floorboard while trying to get his toy car. Tom took the box and examined it. It was clearly very old. He agreed with Leo that something was inside. He went to his toolbox and got a small screwdriver. He carefully worked the tip of the screwdriver under the lid of the box. He gently pried it open. The lid popped off with a soft click. The family gathered around the kitchen table to see what was inside. Inside the box, nestled on a small piece of faded velvet cloth, was a single coin. It was a dime. It was silver and shiny, even after all those years in the dark. At first, they were a little disappointed. A dime was just a dime. It was not a pile of gold or jewels. But Tom picked it up and looked at it closely. He noticed the date, 1926. It was an old coin. He turned it over in his fingers. The design was beautiful. It was the old Mercury dime, which he had seen in coin collections before, but there was something else he couldn't quite put his finger on. Leo was not disappointed at all. To him, finding a hidden dime from 1926 was the most exciting thing that had ever happened. He asked if he could keep it. His father, Tom, smiled and said yes. That evening, Tom decided to look up the 1926 dime on the internet. He was just curious. He wanted to see if it was worth more than 10 cents. He did not expect to find anything special. He typed 1926 Mercury dime into the search bar. What he discovered next would make his hands tremble and his heart pound in his chest. The little dime was far more than just an old piece of silver. Tom Miller scrolled through websites about old coins. He learned that a 1926 S Mercury dime, made in San Francisco, was somewhat rare. It could be worth a few dollars, maybe even more if it was in good condition. The dime Leo found was in very good condition. It had been protected in its tin box for all those years. Tom felt a little thrill of excitement. Maybe it was worth $50 or even $100. That would be a nice surprise. It would be enough to help them fix the leaky roof. It was more than they had hoped for. But then he found a strange entry on a forum for serious coin collectors. The post was titled "The Legend of the Liberty's Whisper Dime." It told the story of a mint worker named Silas Croft. It described a unique error on a 1926 S dime. It said that only one was thought to still exist. The error was a tiny, faint line near Liberty's mouth, making it look like she was whispering. The post said that this coin, if it were ever found, would be one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. It was a legend that collectors had talked about for years. Tom's heart skipped a beat. He quickly grabbed the dime from the kitchen table. He also found a magnifying glass that he used for his handyman work. With trembling hands, he held the dime under the bright kitchen light. He looked closely at the face of Lady Liberty. He focused on the area around her mouth. At first he saw nothing, but then he tilted the coin just right. He saw it. It was incredibly faint, almost invisible. But it was there. A tiny, perfect line, exactly where the legend said it would be. It was the Liberty's Whisper. Tom felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. Could it be real? Could this little dime that his son found under the floor be the legendary coin? He called Sarah over to look. He showed her the forum post, and then the dime under the magnifying glass. She saw it too. They stood in their old kitchen, staring at the tiny piece of silver. The forum estimated the coin's value at over $1 million. It seemed impossible. It was a number so large it felt like a dream. The quiet of their home was suddenly filled with a huge, unbelievable secret. The days that followed the discovery were a blur for the Miller family. Tom contacted a famous coin expert, a numismatist, from a well-known auction house in New York City. He sent detailed photos of the dime. The expert was very excited. He asked them to bring the coin for authentication immediately. The family carefully packed the dime and flew to New York. They were nervous and full of hope. In a high-security office, the expert examined the coin under a powerful microscope. After a long, silent inspection, he looked up at them and smiled. "Congratulations," he said. "This is it. This is the Liberty's Whisper." The news spread like wildfire. The story of the boy who found $1 million dime under his floorboard was everywhere. It was on the news, in newspapers, and all over the internet. The Miller family, who had been living a quiet, simple life, were suddenly famous. The auction for the dime was a huge event. Collectors from all over the world wanted to own this piece of American history. The bidding was fast and furious. When the final hammer fell, the Liberty's Whisper dime sold for an astonishing $3.4 million. The Millers were speechless. Their lives had changed overnight. For Leo Miller, the change was immense. He was no longer just a boy in an old house. He was the dime boy, the kid who found a fortune. His parents were very wise with the money. They set up a trust fund for Leo's education and future. They bought a new, comfortable house, but they stayed in their beloved Cleveland. They fixed up their old house and sold it to another young family, but not before checking all the other floorboards, just in case. Tom was able to start his own construction business. Sarah finally got her beautiful garden. They were financially secure for the rest of their lives, but the biggest change was the opportunity it gave Leo. He was able to attend the best schools. He developed a deep passion for history, inspired by the story of his own amazing discovery. He went to college and became a historian, specializing in American history. He never forgot where he came from. He often told his story to inspire others. He would say that treasure can be found in the most unexpected places. He reminded people that hope, like the dime hidden by Silas Croft so many years ago, can wait patiently for the right person to find it. Today, in the year 2026, the Liberty's Whisper dime is more than just a valuable coin. It is a piece of modern American folklore. After the auction, it was purchased by a wealthy philanthropist who believed the coin's story should be shared with everyone. He did not lock it away in a private vault. Instead, he loaned it to the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. There, it became the centerpiece of a new exhibit called American Dreams: Small Objects, Big Stories. Millions of people have since visited the museum to see the famous dime. The exhibit tells the entire story of the coin. It starts with Silas Croft and the San Francisco Mint in 1926. It talks about the hardship of the Great Depression that led him to hide it. It shows a replica of the little tin box and the floorboard from the Millers' old house in Cleveland. And in the center of it all, resting on a velvet cushion inside a climate-controlled, high-security glass case, is the dime itself. A special magnifying camera projects a large image of the coin onto a screen above, so everyone can clearly see the faint whispering line on Lady Liberty's face. The dime has become a powerful symbol for many Americans. It represents the idea that fortune can change in an instant. It is a story of hope, luck, and the hidden connections that tie generations together. School children on field trips stare at the dime in wonder. They hear the story of Leo Miller, a boy just like them, who made an incredible discovery. The coin teaches them that history is not just in books. It is all around us, sometimes hidden just under our feet. It shows that even the smallest, most ordinary things can have extraordinary stories. The legend of the dime has also renewed interest in coin collecting, or numismatics. People all across America have started looking more closely at the change in their pockets. They check the dates and mint marks on their coins. They dream of finding their own hidden treasure. Of course, a discovery like the Liberty's Whisper is a once-in-a-lifetime event, but the hope it inspires is real. The dime reminds us that the past is always with us and that sometimes, if you are very, very lucky, it might just whisper a secret that can change your life forever. The journey of the Liberty's Whisper dime is a truly American tale. It is a story that weaves together different threads of the nation's history. It begins in the optimism of the Roaring Twenties. It passes through the despair of the Great Depression. It lies dormant through the vast changes of the 20th century. And it is reborn in the 21st century, a time of digital discovery and instant news. The coin is a physical link to all these different eras. It is a silent witness to the struggles and hopes of ordinary Americans over the course of 100 years. This story is not just about the value of a rare coin. It is about the value of human kindness. The tale would not exist without Silas Croft. He was a man who, in his own time of hardship, chose to create a secret hope for a stranger. He did not know who would find the dime, or when. He only knew that he wanted to pass along a small chance for a miracle. His selfless act, hidden for so long, is the true heart of the legend. It is a reminder that a small act of generosity can have effects that ripple through time, in ways we can never imagine. The discovery by young Leo Miller completes the circle. It is a story of innocence and curiosity rewarded in the most unbelievable way. It fulfills the hope that Silas Croft had planted almost 100 years earlier. The Miller family story is the American dream, in miniature. They were a hardworking family who, through a stroke of incredible luck, were given a chance at a better life. Their responsible and humble reaction to their newfound wealth makes the story even more powerful. They used their fortune to build a better future, not just for themselves, but also by inspiring others. In the end, the Liberty's Whisper dime has been transformed. It is no longer just a piece of currency or even just a collector's item. It has become a part of the national story. It sits alongside tales of Johnny Appleseed and Paul Bunyan, a modern piece of folklore born from metal, dust, and a century of waiting. It teaches us to look for the wonder in small things, to believe in the possibility of hidden treasures, and to remember that the past is always whispering its secrets to those who are willing to listen. The little silver dime from 1926 became a legend and a symbol of hope for all Americans.